So my name is Tim Shero. I am one of the co-founders of Cereba. If you have a Cereba account, you're probably somewhat familiar with the platform, but we do these weekly webinars here where we essentially go through, obviously overview of the platform, and we can answer questions about the platform and how it works. But the goal here is to make sure that you guys are ready to be able to connect it to HighLevel, because the system itself is very easy to use, very easy to connect to HighLevel. So that's kind of the goal here. So what we'll do is I will kind of go through a use case that we have. I'll show you kind of like a walkthrough of setting up a campaign in Cereba. So we'll go through a mock account. We'll set up a campaign in Cereba. I'll explain kind of step by step what's going on behind the scenes and everything like that. And then when we get to the end, we will connect it to HighLevel, and I'll walk through how that connection works, so that you can kind of repeat it for yourself on your own there. And then we can open it up to questions at the end. So if you guys have specific questions about how everything works and how the setup works, or specific campaigns that you want help with or anything like that, we can jump into that. So let me go ahead and share my screen here, and I'll start going. And if you guys have any questions, just drop them in the chat. All right, 1 second here. Okay, you guys should see my screen there. What I'm going to do, just for sake of time and making sure that we can go over everything, I'm just going to play. I just recorded this walkthrough of this campaign, and I'll just explain what's happening here. So essentially, what I did was I found just a random roofing company on Google Maps. And then I'm just going through the process of setting up an AI for this roofing company. So this is Red Dogs Roofing. And this is the same process that you guys will have for your actual campaigns whenever you're setting them up as well. But essentially what you do is you'll provide your website, and you'll put it in here. And then you'll enter that website, it'll go through. And then what Cereba is going to do to give you a head start is it's going to just find out whatever information we can find about this company online and give you a starting point for your AI. So you'll see here it kind of gave you like a summary. There's a lot more happening behind the scenes, whether it's just stuff that we can get from your website or somewhere else, just to kind of give you an overview to work with. So one thing you'll notice with Cereba is that Cereba builds the AI for you. It's not something where you're going to be going in there and prompting it or building like decision tree workflows. The whole goal with this is to make it easy to build and launch AI campaigns. All right, so we're going to start with that. Next, we're going to build your AI core, which consists of that and your personality for your AI so that it sounds like you want it to sound. And for these examples here that we're going through, we're basically just building a personality matrix, and we're giving examples that apply to Red Dogs Roofing, right? So you can see it's asking about like roofing materials and stuff like that. And that's just to give you an idea of how the actual, yes, the meeting is recording. Yeah, just to give an example of that. And then anything that you see here during this onboarding process, you can update that later on, no problem. The way that you make updates in Cereba is all done conversationally. So again, you're not going to be accessing long, complicated prompts. You're not going to be building these decision tree workflows or anything like that. Everything is just going to be happening conversationally, just through a conversation with your AI. So once you finish your AI core, which at this point is essentially wrapped up. Once you finish that AI core, you can launch your first AI campaign. So with Cereba, I guess what we do that's different from everybody else, let me just check one thing here, because I think that I have my sound coming through on this video. That's better. Now with Cereba, we streamline the process of creating AI campaigns, right? So think of a campaign as an individual use case for an AI. So it could be scheduling appointments. It could be getting referrals, getting reviews. For every campaign that you create, it's all done through a conversation with an AI. So you basically come into Cereba's campaign builder, which is where we are here, and you're just going to walk through an explanation of what you're doing for that campaign. So for this one here, I'm actually going to take a step back because I realize I'm flying through this. For this one here, we just have, we come into it and we say, hey, I want to schedule appointments with new leads that I generate through Facebook ads. Now, what happens on the back end of Cereba is it's going to go into the system. It's going to come up with our best practice for handling the context around this AI campaign. A best practice scenario, and keep in mind, we've spent a lot of money doing things like Facebook ads, for example, to really fine tune these campaigns and make sure that the AIs work out of the box, right? So the goal is to have it so that whenever you finish your onboarding process, whenever you set up this AI core and these AI campaigns, that you're ready to launch. So you're not in a position where you're constantly making unnecessary tweaks. These should be ready to go as soon as you launch the campaign. And once we get to the end of this, you guys will see that. But what's going to happen is the AI is going to respond. It's going to give you an example of how the conversation flow should work. And then it's just going to go through the process and ask for a little bit more information so that you can create this AI campaign. So you'll see we're going to go through, give me some information about who the audience is, right? We're saying they're homeowners in Rhode Island. It's going to ask what channel we're using. Cereba worked with any channel that works with HighLevel. Any conversational AI channel works with HighLevel. So you can do SMS text messages. You can do Facebook Messenger, Instagram DMs, email, WhatsApp, any of those text-based channels Cereba can work with. And I'll show you how we can connect those whenever we get through. But essentially, as we're going through, you can see we'll name it here. We can talk about a little bit more nuanced stuff, like whether the AI should kind of be driving the conversation, have as like a sales focused, or if it should be more passive and customer service centric. You can kind of put that in here. If you want to make any changes to these things while you're doing it, or you have questions, you can just ask the AI and it'll go through that. But once it wraps up, which it's about to do here, it's then going to take all of this context that we provided to the AI, and it's going to use that to start building the AI in the back end. And it's going to use it for each of the other steps that we have. So this next one is what we call engagement questions, or conversation flow. So these are questions that your AI will ask the contact in order to drive the conversation towards the goal, right? So you can change these. They won't necessarily all be asked unless you tell your AI in the context piece that that's what you want. Or if you want them to ask in order, you just tell your AI in the context, I want you to ask the engagement questions in order, and it can do that. Next, we also have campaign knowledge, right? So you have core knowledge. Everything's already applied as far as like industry best practices, like I mentioned before, sales and marketing best practices. All that stuff already applies to your AI. If you have specific things that need Q&A, how you handle financing, products that you use, specific things like that, you can update those here in this question and answer format. We give you some examples based on the information that we found, but you can go in here and just make sure it's accurate. They're not like canned responses. You don't need to make sure they're it's like what the AI is going to say. It's just information to give the correct answer. I do want to take one quick step back and just highlight on one piece here. You'll see there is a checkbox here. It says redirect. What the redirect does is, I'm sure many of you are in sales. If you think about, a conversation, that you don't necessarily want your AI or your appointment setter or whatever to answer every question, right? There's certain buying questions, where we see those as like, you want to just, there's intent behind that. And that's what this redirect does. Instead of, if this question comes up, for example, can I get an estimate before scheduling the service? You can check that redirect box. And then what will happen is that AI will see that as scheduling intent or goal intent. And then it'll move directly to scheduling to somebody on the team or executing the goal, financing, things like that. Digital assets, these are assets that your AI or links that your AI can share. So for example, this one, I put like a link from this company that's just like their financing page. You can just say, hey, if someone asks about financing, just provide them with this link. And then the AI can provide that in the conversation. Cool. So that's the campaign. In terms of creating the actual, the brain behind the campaign. I want to pause just for a minute and check the chat to see if there's any questions so far on this stuff. I see Connor, you were asking about the the knowledge section. So in Cereba, there's two places where we have knowledge. So you have your AI core. Your AI core consists of company insights, specific things that have to do with your company. And then your core also has its own knowledge base, right? So that has a very similar question and answer style knowledge base that that the campaign has. But the good thing about the core is that this is shared all the way across all of your campaigns, right? So you have one central core, one central brain, and then you can have multiple different use cases for your AI, scheduling, rescheduling, referrals, reviews, customer service, support tickets, any of those things, you can do that. And then each of those individual campaigns, they also have their own standalone knowledge base for things that apply just to that campaign. So the core writes down through everything, and then you can also have stuff that applies just to the campaign as well. And Stephen, you had a question about voice. So we don't currently support voice, so it's something that our team is looking into. From our side here, our focus is to do very well at what we're doing, and our focus is kind of staying on the chat space. There's still a ton of opportunity in the chat space. So that's kind of where we're sticking, right here, but it's definitely something that we're looking into. And when we're able to offer a voice product that performs just as well as our text-based product does, then we'll let you guys know, and we can get that rolled out as well. Cool. Any other questions before I move on? All right, let's jump to it. So that's setting up, that's your onboarding, right? So I think next we're going to roll into the actual dashboard as we get through this piece. So this is going to complete the campaign. Then we'll connect to HighLevel. So Cereba has a direct integration to your HighLevel account. So you can connect each individual sub account directly to your HighLevel. And it'll install our marketplace app whenever you do that. So this is just me picking one of the sub accounts that I have in HighLevel just for a test account here. And then that's just going to automatically map everything over, and it'll create the custom fields and stuff that we need to make everything run. So here we'll do a quick tour, and I'm going to skip some of this, and you guys can kind of take a look at this whenever you get into it, but I want to go over some stuff in here. Cool. So we have your core, like I mentioned before. You have your own knowledge base again for your core, and then we have your campaign. All right, so this is your campaign. I'm going to pause for a second here. This is your campaign, right? So if I take just a quick step back, you will see, can I do that? Right. Oh, man. All right, let me find that perfect spot. There it is. Okay, cool. So we have your campaign. So you can have multiple campaigns set up inside your account here. And then you can edit those individually whenever you go in here. Now, you go through the process of building your AI using no code, no prompts, no workflows, right? Now, whenever you're in here, what you really want to do is be able to quickly launch these campaigns and then not have to manage them a lot day to day. So for example, I'm not sure if you guys have used other conversational AI tools. A lot of them, they kind of hand you this like empty framework for how you're going to do it. They say, hey, we have all the tools you need to build an AI campaign. Here you go, right? So that's not necessarily what Cereba does. It's a done for you service inside an app, right? So what you do is you build your AI with no code, no prompts or workflows. Then whenever you come in here, you can test your AI, and then you can refine your AI and make it better just with the conversation, right? So if I show you an example of how we test a campaign here, I think, once we get through these. All right, so we'll test this campaign here, and then we'll see an example of how this conversation, and this is right after the intro, right after the creation, right? So, excuse me. So this is just asking the engagement questions as it goes through. Then this is me obviously responding. How old is the roof? It's about 22 to 25 years old. And then here I'm just going through, it's just asking the engagement questions. When I did the context, I said, hey, ask all the engagement questions. Once I answer them, schedule an appointment, right? Very simple, right? Now, one thing I want to pause here and touch on something, because this is the update that we're going to make. So if we look here, it says, great, thanks for sharing that. Would you like us to schedule an appointment to assess and discuss potential roofing solutions? So in sales, asking is not typically the best thing, right? Like, would you like to schedule an appointment? Very easy to say no to that. So a very simple thing you can do to help improve your conversion rates is just to not necessarily ask if they would like to schedule an appointment, but just assume they'd like to schedule an appointment. So that's an update that we make to the AI here is, well, first we're going to finish the chat here. And obviously this is a test example, right? So this is within the app, so it doesn't schedule or anything like that in here, but great. So then in order to make a change, we're going to click that update campaign button there, and then it's going to open up a chat with your AI. And then this is set up for you to actually make changes. So this is coming in and it's saying, hey, looks like you want to make changes to this campaign. Here's an overview of what it does. What do you want to change? And now I'm just going to go through, say, hey, when scheduling an appointment, instead of saying things like, would you like to schedule? Just assume they want to schedule and say something like, let me help you. Yeah, let me help you schedule an appointment. Let me jump into this a little bit. There we go. Someone from our discovery team. Right, so just a conversational update that I explained to the AI. Then what will happen is it will actually update itself in the backend. So you just have to let the AI finish the conversation here, and then it'll update itself. So it's going to confirm my edits. Good, and then I'll be able to publish my changes. And then we can test here. And we'll see the difference here. So we'll see the questions are obviously going to be the same because it's going to be consistent and do what it's supposed to do. 24 years old. Been here for 20 years. Good. So now you can see it took that edit that we made. Let me help you schedule an appointment with our team to inspect the leak and evaluate the condition of your roof, right? So this is how simple it is to really refine it and get it to do exactly what it is that you want to do. You'll just have a conversation. If there's something that you want to change about it, you just tell the AI, hey, do this instead of that. Hey, I want you to capture email address before you book an appointment. Hey, I want you to use less emojis. Hey, I want you to start saying things like very cool and super and things like that. You just explain that to the AI and it'll update itself. Then once you're actually happy with the updates, so we had updated that campaign, you have a test environment here, but then not so that you don't interrupt any of the active campaigns that you're using in HighLevel. Anytime that you see anytime you want to make a change, you'll see a little green arrow here up by your dashboard. And that just means that you have pending updates that aren't shown in your actual AI in HighLevel. So then you just come here and then you update it there live, and then you're good to go. So now everything will show in HighLevel. So before I jump over to the HighLevel, before the HighLevel aspect of things, let me jump back over to the chat so I can see some questions. So it looks like, Stephen, you had a question. Can you use multiple calendars, multiple sales members? We have multiple sales members that specialize in certain market segments. In your example, if the prospect said they need a roof, can the AI ask commercial or residential and forward to a specific person on our team? So there's a couple ways we can do this. Technically, from a campaign standpoint, if we just think about the technical side of it, from a campaign standpoint, each campaign has one calendar associated with that one campaign. My question, I guess, would be how you have these team members and calendars set up in HighLevel, and we could take a look at that. We can essentially route to different campaigns if that's what you're looking to do. It just has a little bit of nuance with it, right? So this is This is a very simple use case. That's a little bit more advanced, but yeah, it seems like something that we'd certainly be able to do is make sure you're able to route to the correct calendar, whether you use a contact field or something like that to push it through. But yeah, you can definitely have it do, the prospect or the asking, hey, is it commercial or residential? So definitely something we can take care of. Any other questions about the actual AI piece from anybody before we actually get into how this is going to connect in HighLevel in terms of, setting up the AI and things like that? Cool. Let's jump to it. Let me check one thing quick. Sorry, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share a different screen here. And then we'll just take another look at this. Oh, all right, one sec. Okay, this looks better. Okay, so with HighLevel, so Cereba has, I mentioned we have a direct integration with HighLevel, so we can update the fields that we need to do in HighLevel and everything like that. In order to get them to communicate with each other, we just need two very simple workflows. So just to kind of give a quick overview of how they work together, right? So HighLevel is CRM, right? All of your contacts are in HighLevel. All of the conversations are in HighLevel, and everything like that. That doesn't change. So HighLevel acts as your trigger, and it's what starts conversations with Cereba. What Cereba does is Cereba processes messages and it handles actions that we call intents, right? So things like scheduling an appointment, things like updating a contact field or triggering a workflow or sending data to Zapier. That's what Cereba does, and it handles these actions or intents fluidly like conversationally. So, I'd say the biggest challenge that a lot of the other tools have is that everybody is kind of going down this path of workflows, right? Even HighLevel, everybody's going down this path of workflows, but conversations aren't always super rigid and linear, right? Conversations are more fluid. Somebody may come in and say, hey, I want to schedule a call right off the rip. Somebody may send a few messages and then maybe give a little bit of pushback and then say, okay, I'll schedule a call. So there's just, it's fluid, there's nuance to it. And what Cereba does is it works with that fluidity and it works with that nuance so that it can handle these intents anytime there is intent in the conversation. And it can do these all at the same time as well, right? So it can update a contact field, trigger workflow, and schedule an appointment all at the same time if somebody shows intent for doing all the things based on how we do it with Cereba. So anyway, hope that makes sense. But the two things we need to connect the two platforms are we need one thing that is going to trigger it and send it over to Cereba, and then we need one more workflow that's just going to send it back. They're very easy to make. I'm going to make them right now. And they're just two actions apiece. So the first one, we'll call it Cereba process message. We're going to use a customer replied trigger. And for this example, we'll do SMS. And then the second one is going to be your Cereba campaign ID. And then we'll grab this Cereba campaign ID. So what's happening here, if we think about this workflow, is a customer or a contact is going to enter this workflow if they reply to SMS and they are part of this Cereba campaign ID. So this is making sure that the only people that are getting sent over to Cereba are the ones that Cereba is supposed to respond to, not like a current customer reaching out about, servicing an existing project or anything like that. Just people that you're looking to have talk to Cereba. And this campaign ID, I think I've shown an example, is shown right here on your campaign in Cereba. The first step is to do that, right? Set up that customer reply trigger. Next step is to send it over to Cereba. The way we do that is with a simple webhook. And I have a support documentation here that on our support docs that can show you where this webhook endpoint is. And you can just provide that URL there, and that'll send it to Cereba. So that's it for this one. We just publish that. And the next one that we're going to use is Cereba send message, right? So first one goes over to Cereba. Second one, when we have a response, what will happen, let me just take a step back here. Once Cereba has a response, it's going to update a contact field in HighLevel. That contact field is called Cereba response. And then once, what we're going to do to bring contacts into that workflow is we are going to look for contact changed as the trigger. And we are just, let me take a step back. We're going to look for contact changed as a trigger. And we're going to look for that specific field to change. So we're going to look at contact changed. We're going to look for filters. We're going to grab that Cereba response field. And then we're going to look for has changed. Now, anytime that field changes, it's going to add a contact into this workflow. And then we're just going to look for our SMS action. And we're going to look for Cereba response. And we're just going to put in the custom value for Cereba response there. And that's just going to populate that message into SMS. And that's it. So then we save this. So now Cereba and HighLevel are ready to work together when it comes to sending SMS messages. If you are using a different type of campaign, if you want to use, WhatsApp or Instagram DMs or Facebook Messenger, anything like that, all you do is just, you can add your individual campaigns, new triggers at the top of your Cereba process message workflow, right? So we had the one for this campaign. You can have campaign 2, campaign 3, campaign 4, and that's how you can get multiple ones coming in. And then you just, if you're using a different channel here, you would just route them to whatever channel they're supposed to be by Cereba campaign ID. So it's very simple to run multiple campaigns in Cereba. So, it took us, obviously we sped up a couple of things up, but it took, within about 30 minutes, you can get a new campaign up and running and then launched in HighLevel. So you can do on these other platforms. Whenever you want to add in an additional AI campaign, you can just come in and it should be very similar. So you don't have to rebuild these every time or anything like that. You just need to add a new trigger at the top. So that is it as far as getting them connected. The next question is, how do you actually add a contact to a Cereba campaign, right? So I'm going to use an example here that is like for Facebook ads, right? So if you think about people who are generating leads for Facebook ads, what you'll have is you will have a workflow, and your trigger for your workflow in HighLevel will be something like survey submitted, right? Let's say you're running them to a survey on your landing page. Your trigger already in HighLevel, that's probably already there, should already be there, will be like survey submitted, or maybe you'll do lead form submitted, or you'll do contact created, whatever these things are. You'll go to that workflow and you just add one action, and that action is update contact field, not that one. There we go, update contact field. What we're going to do, so a contact comes in from your survey, they fill out your survey for your lead form, they come in, we're going to update a Cereba campaign ID field. So what we're going to do is just add our Cereba campaign to this contact so that whenever they come in, they can get added, it'll show on the contact, and then we're going to send them our first outreach message from HighLevel, what we call an autoresponder. So for example, here, I put our first outreach message, hey John, this is Tim. What did I put here? I think it's cut off a little bit. Oh, this is Tim from Red Dogs Roofing. I saw you reach out about an estimate. Have you already had someone look at your roof, or are you just getting started, right? So we have some best practices for how we handle those outreach messages. We recommend keeping it conversational and ending the message in a question, because the goal is just to get a response back over to the AI. And that'll help you get more scheduled appointments if you do that. So with this, so this is our example for like a web lead that comes in, they fill out your survey, we update the Cereba campaign ID, and then we send that outreach message. Now, if a contact replies to that outreach message, it's going to send that over to Cereba. Cereba will then take over the conversation, reply back to the contact, and then schedule an appointment. Now, this applies to anywhere that you want to add Cereba to HighLevel. So for example, just a couple examples, Speedfire, right, is you have your new leads where you add them here. You have, maybe you want to run an outreach campaign. Maybe you're gonna set up a workflow where contacts get added to it, and then you just send outreach, hey, I know we met 90 days ago. Has anything changed since we last met? Or, hey, we have some new promotions. Has anything changed since we last met? Something like that. You just add this update Cereba campaign ID field there. And then whenever you send that message out, that contact will have the correct Cereba campaign ID. And then that will get properly routed over to Cereba whenever you send that message and they reply. So that's it in terms of getting them going. You could run this same type of thing. I think we have an example of one of these in one of the snapshots whenever you create your account as well. So you can pretty much just get it launched right away. So with that, I want to flip back over and I want to just see if there's any questions. And that's kind of it, right? As far as getting everything up and running and running your campaign, we could turn this on right now and I'd be confident that it would be booking appointments. But I want to see if there's any questions. And then I will also open up the microphones. And if you guys want to just, if anybody has any questions about their campaigns, or if they want to spend some time just talking some things through, I'm happy to answer those questions. Let me open this up here. Cool. So microphones, I believe, are live. So feel free to fire away if anybody has any questions. And if not, no big deal. I'll hang on here for a couple minutes, and then we can, we can break, and I can get everybody the recording here whenever it's ready. Custom fields. Yes, that's a good question. It's super simple. I can actually walk through what that looks like. Hang on one sec. I'll change my screen share here, and we can go through that. Let me see if I can find an example. Okay, let me present. Let me look at this. Okay, so this, I believe, is the same account I was using. Yes, okay, great. So yeah, so the question is, can we update custom fields in HighLevel? And yes, absolutely. It's super easy to update custom fields in HighLevel. I'll also share, I guess, a little bit of a different use case. So I think there's, when people think about us updating custom fields, a lot of times they think like, oh, can I just capture an address before I schedule an appointment? Or can I capture email address or something like that? Absolutely, obviously, you can do those. Those are really simple updates. But if you think a little bit higher level, you can also do things like trigger high-level workflows and things like that based on contact field updates. And that's something that we do with Cereba very well. So let's just take a look at this account here, and I'll give an example. So for any action or any intent that Cereba runs, the way you would find that is by going to the campaign in Cereba, where I'm at right now, and then going over to intents. And then in intents, you'll see we have these, we have these different intents that apply to Cereba. The first one here is called auto reconnect. So Cereba can handle follow-ups on its own anytime intent is shown. So if someone says, hey, I'm in a meeting, or hey, I need to talk to my wife, can you reach out to me next week? Or they're not ready to book an appointment, but they want you to follow up, the AI will actually just schedule itself a follow-up. and follow up when the time comes, right? So that's auto reconnect. We have autonomous learning. This is allows your AI to learn and get better from each conversation. And if, for example, if it doesn't know answer to a question, it'll send you a notification and say, hey, you need to add this to your knowledge base, just so you're not training and troubleshooting the AI. We have scheduling, and then we have update contact fields, which is what you're asking about. So by default, we do standard fields, and then we can update custom fields as well. Super easy. You just add this, add the contact field key right here. What contact field is it going to be updating? For example, a field key might look like this, contact, right? It might look like that. All you're adding in Cereba is this. And you can find this by going to your settings in HighLevel, going to, I think the instructions are here, and then clicking additional preferences and unique key on the contact field. But you basically just come in here and then you put in the contact field key, and then in the description, you just explain to the AI when you want it to be updated, right? So you'll say, update this field when, someone shows, update this field to, hot, when someone shows interest, what do we say, in replacing their roof. Right, so this is pretty vague, but you could also have, for example, if you have like a, let's say this is one, proposal details, or budget is maybe one, right? Now update this to the preferred budget range based on the conversation, right? So it's like you could have examples like this that you're updating. You could create a summary, whatever it is, whatever these contact fields are, this is how you update those. And then once you have this created and you save it, then if I just go back over to my overview, I can go into update campaign context, and I can just tell the AI when I want it to update that contact field. So for example, if you wanted to do it every time, like, hey, every time somebody asks you about XYZ, I want you to update a contact field with this. And then over in HighLevel, you can then use those contact fields, and you can trigger workflows based on changes to those contact fields or whatever you need to do. I know that was a lot. Does that does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. And any other questions like that? If not, I can show something that's kind of similar to contact fields, but it's pretty cool. Nothing? Cool. So, I mean, while we're in here, I was going through those intents. We have one other thing that I really like to show because it's super cool. It's similar to how we have these contact fields updates, but it's called custom intents. So, with Cereba, our goal is to make everything simple, right? So we have a really, really great UX team. Like, our product team is awesome. And our goal is to make everything really streamlined and really simple. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's that you can't do complex things with Cereba, right? So that's the, when you bring up the contact fields, that's a good example of something that's a little bit more complex, so you can certainly handle. We also, Stephen, I think you had a question about the calendars before. This is a similar way that we would use to update those calendars, or to update who the sales member is, maybe, so that you can route it to their correct calendar and so on. But we also have another one. It's called custom intents. And what custom intents allow you to do is send data from the conversation to an endpoint, right? So like a webhook. So a good example of that is to send data to Zapier, for example. So for example, an example I like to use is like a support ticket, right? So we'll just do this as an example, right? Support ticket, I want you to use this when someone needs support. This doesn't apply to the roofing example, but it's a good example. Someone needs support, right? And then you would just provide the webhook URL, which in HighLevel, you can use this as a custom webhook trigger at the top. You can take the webhook URL and you can just add that here. And then you're going to add parameters. And these are just what is going to be sent, right? So it's going to send data to whatever this URL is. And then these are just going to be what's going to be sent there. So we could say like ticket number, and then we can say create a random number. It's a random 6-digit number. You can say reason, support reason, right? And we can say, this is what they need help with. And then you can have conversation summary. All right. So this, for example, now, anytime this happens during the conversation, someone says they need support, the AI will know, oh, this person needs support. I'm going to send this information over to this, this webhook URL, and then you can do it for, you trigger an automation in HighLevel. You can send yourself a notification. You can use this to trigger other workflows, or maybe send somebody an email. Things like that. So it's a little bit more of an advanced feature, but it's definitely something cool that I like to show. Some other examples of things you can do there is flag people who want a phone call right now, right? It's like they're not ready to schedule. They want someone to call them right on the spot. You can do that. You can send notifications to specific high important team members and things like that, so they know of stuff that's going on. Pretty much anything that you're not doing with the regular thing that you need to get added in here, you can usually do with a custom intent. So hope that's helpful. Just wanted to walk through that as well. But I think so that's pretty much it. So we're at about time here. In terms of Cereba, I would say next steps, if you guys are on the trial, so I can walk through, I guess, how our plans work, which is pretty straightforward, but I'll walk through those plans. So we have all of our plans come with a 10-day free trial. So you can launch your AI campaigns for free. You can run them for 10 days. We do that with what we call unlimited messages. So we don't charge per message fees. We don't do, we don't do API fees or anything like that. You just basically have your Cereba subscription, and we have 2 plans to keep it simple, and they're all just based on how many campaigns you're running. So if you're running your just one single active AI campaign, you'll be on our growth plan. So you'll do it for 10 days, and then you can do that for $79 a month. And then when you decide to do like full funnel AI, you want to run multiple campaigns, then you would just upgrade to our pro plan for $189. And that's it, right? And then you can run things like scheduling, support, customer service, rescheduling, referrals, reviews, all of those different use cases. You'd be able to run those kind of with no limits, up to, I think it's 10,000 AI messages a month through those plans, which is a lot. If you guys are sending 10,000 AI messages a month, then you're doing really, really well. So I'd say the next step, if you're not on the trial, would be to grab a trial and then obviously go through, create your AI core and launch your first campaign. And then once you get signed up, so once you get through your trial, you do get a free 30-minute strategy call as well. So we can definitely schedule a follow-up call there. And then I'm happy to kind of help you guys get this across the finish line, launch it across the finish line, or help you get it fine-tuned and do what you needed to do. So yeah, so that's it for this call. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up, but we do this live every Wednesday at 2. And if you guys need any help with anything, we have our support team. Just shoot us an email, support@cereba.ai, or just reach out to me if you guys need anything. I'm here for you. So thanks so much for joining, guys. We'll talk soon.